Remember when Kurt Russell headlined a $60 million science fiction movie and barely said a word in the whole thing? Soldier got dumped into theaters, flopped hard, and quietly disappeared, written off as one more forgettable 90s action bomb, except it wasn't forgettable at all. Buried inside it is a year of secret training, a fake injury cover story, a hidden movie crossover, and one of the strangest secret sequels in film history. Here are 15 hidden truths about Soldier. Number 15. The star of the movie speaks only 104 words in the entire film. Kurt Russell is the lead, the title character, and he's on screen for something like 85% of the runtime. Yet across the whole movie, Sergeant Todd speaks only about 104 words total. And here's the part that makes it funnier. Roughly 20 of those words are just "sir."
Sir!
Strip out the yes sirs and no sirs, and the actual man barely says anything at all. This wasn't a mistake or a hack job edit either. It was the entire design of the character. A soldier raised from infancy to obey, not to talk. Russell essentially signed on to carry a big-budget studio film almost entirely without dialogue, betting he could hold an audience for 2 hours on posture and silence alone. It's one of the most extreme lead performances in any mainstream action movie, and he walked into it on purpose. Number 14, he trained 4 hours a day for over a year, and the whole movie waited for him. Russell didn't just show up and flex for the camera. He committed to a punishing regimen, roughly 4 hours a day for more than a year, to build the exact lean, weathered, purpose-built physique he thought Sergeant Todd needed. And here's the detail most people never hear. The production was actually postponed to give him time to do it. A studio held an expensive movie in a holding pattern because its star insisted the body had to be right before a single frame was shot. Given that Todd barely speaks, Russell knew his physicality was the performance. The way he stood, moved, and filled a doorway had to tell the whole story. So he treated a year of training as the real script work and refused to start until it was done. Number 13, he broke a bone in each foot in the first week, and they rebuilt the schedule around his injuries. After all that training, disaster hit almost immediately. In the very first week of shooting, Russell broke his left ankle, and then, just 4 days later, broke the top of his right foot. 2 different injuries, 2 different feet, within days. For most productions, that's a catastrophe. Instead of shutting down, the filmmakers did something genuinely clever. They reorganized the entire shooting schedule around what Russell's body could physically do at each stage of healing. First, they shot every scene where Todd is lying down, then the scenes where he's sitting, then scenes where he stands but doesn't move, then, finally, scenes with real movement. The recovery timeline literally dictated the shot list. A multi-million-dollar movie assembled in order of how much weight its star could put on his feet. Number 12. The famous stunt injury was a total lie. He tripped over a cabbage. Here's the connection most people miss about that injury. The production put out a press statement claiming Russell broke his ankle performing a dangerous stunt, heroic, on-brand, exactly the image an action movie wants. The truth was considerably less cinematic. He tripped over an ornamental cabbage during a break. That's it. One of the most physically demanding action stars of his generation, mid-shoot on a hard-edged military sci-fi film, was taken out not by a wire gag or a fall, but by a decorative vegetable in the landscaping. So the studio simply invented a cooler story and fed it to the press. It's a small, perfect example of how much of a movie's behind-the-scenes mythology is quietly manufactured. The real version is almost always weirder and a lot more human than the official one. Number 11. The child version of the hero is Kurt Russell's actual son. In the film's opening, we see Todd as a boy, one of a batch of infants selected at birth and raised into living weapons. That 11-year-old Todd is played by Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's real-life son. So, a movie about a man engineered from childhood to be a soldier cast the star's own child to play the star as a child. A bit of literal bloodline continuity hiding in the first few minutes, and there's a payoff most viewers never connect. That same kid grew up to become a serious actor in his own right, eventually stepping into the Marvel Universe as the replacement Captain America. A quiet cameo in a forgotten 90s flop turned out to be an early screen appearance for a future franchise lead. Father and son playing the same manufactured man, decades apart. Number 10. The director made an entirely different movie just to buy Russell time to bulk up. This one sounds made up, but it tracks. Director? Paul W.S. Anderson knew Russell needed close to a year of training to be physically ready for Soldier. So rather than let that time sit empty, Anderson went off and directed a whole other feature in the gap. The sci-fi horror film Event Horizon. In other words, one of the most beloved cult horror movies of the 90s partly exists because its director was killing time waiting for Kurt Russell's body to catch up to a script. Think about the scale of that decision. An entire separate production, cast, crew, and release slotted into the pre-production window of a different film. Most directors filled downtime with rewrites. Anderson filled his by making Event Horizon, which brings us to an even stranger connection. Number 9. He then hid a piece of Event Horizon inside Soldier, secretly linking the two films. Anderson didn't just make Event Horizon during the wait. He quietly stitched the two movies together. On the junk planet where Todd is dumped, buried in the enormous pile of interstellar wreckage, there's a recognizable chunk of the Lewis and Clark, the rescue ship from Event Horizon. It's a blink-and-miss Easter egg, but its implication is huge. It means Soldier and Event Horizon share the same fictional universe. Anderson essentially built a private cinematic universe years before cinematic universe became a marketing phrase every studio chased. There's no on-screen announcement, no fanfare. Just a filmmaker planting a piece of one of his films into another and trusting that someday someone would notice. And people did. But the wreckage pile hides an even bigger secret, which is our number 1. Quick pause. If you're still with us, do us a favor and hit like and subscribe so more old-school sci-fi fans can find these deep dives. Now back to the countdown, because the next one is what the whole movie is actually about. Number 8. The real subject of the movie is obsolescence, and Todd's whole arc is a man being told he's outdated. Under the explosions, Soldier is about being replaced. Todd and his fellow veterans are the original generation, human infants raised and drilled into soldiers. The villain's plan is to scrap them all in favor of a new line of genetically engineered soldiers, bred for superior strength and total emotional deadness. When the new model, Kane 607, is tested against the veterans, he demolishes 3 of them almost instantly. Todd's entire journey is that of an older worker declared obsolete by a shinier upgrade. And the one victory that matters is deeply pointed. Todd beats the engineered super soldier not with better specs, but by gouging his eye out. The handmade, experienced, outdated man defeats the flawless manufactured one through sheer will. It's a surprisingly bitter little parable about human obsolescence, buried inside a movie that got sold as dumb action. Number 7. The script was written back in 1984, fast and alone, right after the writers saw the first Terminator. Soldier hit theaters in 1998, but the screenplay is much older than that. Writer David Webb Peoples has said he wrote it all the way back in 1984, quickly and entirely on his own, and that the spark was walking out of the original Terminator, stunned by what he'd just seen. So a script that sat on a shelf for roughly 14 years was born as one writer's private reaction to James Cameron's breakout film. That's a wild piece of lineage. The movie you're watching from 1998 is, in its DNA, a direct emotional response to 1984-era Cameron. It also means every influence people later spotted in Soldier has to be read carefully, because the words on the page predate a decade and a half of the sci-fi movies it supposedly borrows from. Number 6. The same writer also wrote Blade Runner and Unforgiven. Here's where the pedigree gets absurd for a movie with this reputation. David Webb. Peoples, the man who dashed off Soldier, is the same screenwriter who co-wrote Blade Runner, one of the most influential science fiction films ever made, and who wrote Unforgiven, the Clint Eastwood Western that won Best Picture and earned Peoples an Oscar nomination for its screenplay. So this maligned, money-losing Kurt Russell action flick shares an author with two certified all-time classics. It's a reminder that a screenplay's quality and a finished film's reputation are two very different things. The same mind that gave us Tears in Rain and the moral weight of Unforgiven also quietly authored Soldier. Most people who mock the movie have no idea whose name is on the script. Number 5. A genuine Blade Runner architect actually built Soldier's world. The Blade Runner connection isn't only in the writing, it's baked into the sets. Soldier's production designer was David L. Snyder, and Snyder had earlier worked as an art director on Blade Runner itself, part of the team that created that film's landmark future noir look. So when Soldier's world feels texturally, grimily familiar, the industrial decay, the lived-in machinery, that's not a coincidence or a cheap imitation. It's the same craftsman, drawing on the same design instincts that helped define one of cinema's most imitated visual universes. A person who literally helped build Blade Runner went on to build the look of Soldier, which quietly deepens the link between the two films from something a fan imagined into something with real hands-on lineage behind the camera. Number 4. Russell built a full emotional arc using almost no face and no words. With barely 104 words to work with, Russell had to make Todd's entire inner life legible through the narrowest possible means. And critics who otherwise savaged the film singled this out. The challenge was brutal in a specific way. Todd is a man trained to suppress all emotion, so Russell had to simultaneously play a character struggling to feel and struggling to show it, all while keeping a composed, near-blank face. The performance runs almost entirely on the eyes and microshifts in posture. Whole scenes of grief, confusion, and reawakening humanity play out with a frozen expression and total silence. It's a genuine acting feat disguised as the movie where Kurt Russell doesn't talk, closer to silent film technique than to modern action hero work, and far more disciplined than the film's reputation ever gave him credit for. Number 3. It was one of the biggest box office disasters of its year. For all the craft poured into it, Soldier was a financial catastrophe. Built on a production budget of roughly $60 million, it grossed only around $14 million worldwide, recovering well under a quarter of its cost before you even factor in marketing. That's not an underperformer, that's a full-scale bomb, the kind of result that ends careers and buries movies. And it did get buried, dismissed on release, quickly forgotten, treated as a punchline in Kurt Russell's filmography. The gap between what went into it, the year of training, the Blade Runner pedigree script, the veteran design team, and what came out of it at the box office is enormous. It's a textbook case of a movie that had genuinely interesting bones and still cratered, which is exactly why its second life is so surprising. Number 2. The writer insists he never intended any Blade Runner connection at all. Here's the twist under everything. For years, fans treated Soldier as a deliberate companion piece to Blade Runner. Same writer, shared universe, on purpose. But when David Webb Peoples was later asked directly whether he'd conceived Soldier as a sidequel set in the Blade Runner world, his answer was flatly no. I never had any thoughts about that. He wrote it in 1984 as its own thing. So the connective tissue everyone points to wasn't the author's plan. It was added afterward, on set, by Paul W.S. Anderson and his crew, who knew Peoples had written Blade Runner and decided to lace Soldier with nods to it. The famous link is real, but it's a gift from the filmmakers, not the writer. A fan theory that turned out to be quietly true by accident. Number 1. Soldier is secretly the third Blade Runner movie, and Todd fought the battles the replicant wept about. This is the reveal that resurrected the film. Anderson's crew didn't just gesture vaguely at Blade Runner. They welded Soldier into its universe. In that junkyard wreckage sit the burnt-out shells of Spinners, the flying cars from Blade Runner. And Todd's service record name drops the Battle of Tannhäuser Gate, the exact phrase from Roy Batty's dying Tears in Rain monologue, the most famous speech in the entire franchise. That reference appears not once, but 3 separate ways. On a monitor listing Todd's campaigns, tattooed onto his arm, and spoken aloud in dialogue by the character Mace. The meaning is staggering for fans. Roy Batty wept that his memories, attack ships off the shoulder of Orion, the Tannhäuser Gate, would be lost like tears in rain. Soldier quietly says, a soldier named Todd was actually there. A dismissed 1998 flop is now widely canonized as a secret third chapter of Blade Runner. The movie nobody wanted, standing in the same rain the replicant cried in. Soldier was a bomb built by classicists. A Blade Runner writer, a Blade Runner designer, and a star who trained a year to say 100 words. It was mocked, buried, and left for dead on a junk planet of forgotten 90s movies. And then fans dug through the wreckage, found the Spinners and the Tannhäuser Gate, and realized it was never garbage at all. Maybe that's the most fitting thing about it. It's a film about an obsolete soldier the world tried to throw away, and it survived exactly the way he did, by refusing to stay scrapped. Sometimes the movie everyone dismisses is just waiting for the right people to notice what's buried in the pile.